Get in, chop.
Yo, what's up, you guys? It's your girl, Trudy LPC, and thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Self-Aware and Effed Up podcast. You guys, I just want to say thank you right now, from the bottom of my heart for all of the listeners, all of the audience members that have been giving feedback. Thank you. And I just want to say I really, truly appreciate your support. This week's episode is definitely going to continue to stay in the same vein in terms of us just diving deep into things that impact our community. So I have with me Miss Stacey Uhrig. She is the mindset flipper, and she'll tell you more about what that looks like as we dive into the episode. But she's also a trauma recovery specialist and also does hypnotherapy, and we'll dive into those things as well as we get through the episode. But I just really want you guys to just soak up all the information that she's going to share with you. So without further ado, please welcome to the Self-Aware and Effed Up podcast, Miss Stacey Uhrig. Hey, Stacey, how you doing today?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. I am just glad you took time out of your day to come and speak with me. I'm really excited about learning a little bit more about you and about what you do in terms of rapid transformational therapy, which is a word that I just learned. But I definitely want to hear more about it and more about what you do. So can we just start by having you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am certified as a trauma recovery coach. And I'm also certified in what you just mentioned. I'm a practitioner of a therapeutic model known as rapid transformational therapy. And that particular model is done under hypnosis. So when I'm working with clients, it's not uncommon for them to want to go through this therapeutic journey with me. That's kind of what I call like a hybrid model of conscious and subconscious coaching. And when we're in the subconscious session, we're doing it under hypnosis using this methodology known as rapid transformational therapy.
Wow. Okay. How long have you been into that? It's very interesting. I'm very intrigued
really
by
cool.
it.
I was just looking at this the other day. I got certified in rapid transformational therapy in December of 2021.
Okay.
So it's been almost 2 years, like a year and a half. And I did that training under a psychotherapist named Marissa Pure. So Marissa developed rapid transformational therapy. She's probably been a psychotherapist, if I had to take a stab, for maybe 35, 40 years. And she had learned hypnosis to use as hypnotherapy with her clients back in the 80s and the 90s. And she had developed this methodology that was really transformational. And she was seeing the difference of working on it with her clients versus not. And she could see how quickly and more rapidly they were getting to root causes of what was really keeping them stuck. So she created this recipe, is the best way I can describe it. It's the methodology is like a combination of neurolinguistic programming and CBT and neuroscience, and some internal family systems is in there, some parts work.
Wow.
It's like this menage of things. There's inner child work. So when I take my clients on this 2-hour journey, the one session can be like 2 to 2.5 hours long.
Wow.
Under hypnosis, I'm taking them through this, best way I can put it is journey that incorporates all of these different pieces that she's pulled together. And I'm trained in that methodology under her.
Gotcha. Wow. That's absolutely amazing. Like I'm thinking about all of those models together and then being under hypnosis for 2, hours. That seems like a long amount of time.
It does. But when people come out, they feel like it's been 15 minutes. Like they're like, that was 2 hours. And I was like, yep. Like for me, it's a lot because I'm facilitating straight through and holding space for 2 hours.
Right.
But for them, it doesn't seem that long.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the combination of those. I mean, we all talk about being eclectic, in terms of modalities, but I love the combination of all that because it seems like you're hitting everything, all of those areas, especially that can impact someone who is experiencing trauma. When it comes to trauma, I know a lot of people do get stuck, and from kind of, just exploring a little bit more about what you do, you speak a little bit about the root, treating the root instead of the symptom. Can you speak a little bit more to what that looks like?
Yeah. So when I work with people and they come to me, what I'm really working with is developmental trauma, and I'm working with adults. So,
Okay.
for people that don't know about trauma, when I say developmental trauma, I'm talking about adverse childhood experiences. I'm talking about ACEs. I'm talking about experiences and challenges that people had before they were 18, more likely before they were 10 or 12. We're taking into consideration ways we were attaching as a young child and the lens through which it caused you to see yourself in life.
Gotcha.
Right? So we're not talking about, say, an acute trauma where maybe you're witnessing something or experiencing something in a moment. I'm really working with people who have this unresolved developmental trauma, and it's keeping them very stuck in adulthood. And so instead of trying to get rid of the stuckness, right, and trying to work our way from it, what I do with my clients is we get under the hood and we say, where did it start? What were the feelings I was having that I didn't know how to process? What did I do with those feelings at that age, 4, 8, 18 months old, 10 years old, depending on the person? And what core beliefs did I choose at that moment with the resourcing I had to make? What core beliefs did I choose to make in that moment about myself and others that caused me to navigate life in this certain way, which, by the way, at ages 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 are no longer relevant. And this is why I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I had a client pop into my head that we're still working on deconstructing some of those core beliefs, because the things we're taught in childhood or we learn in childhood, they stick. And it's kind of like that pattern just doesn't work for you anymore. So yeah, I love the idea of you being able to help people get unstuck, because I find it is very difficult to help someone that's sometimes in their 50s and 60s change their mindset because it's been stuck with them for so many years.
I mean, those are my clients that I love the most. I had a woman come to me last summer who was 65 years old, incredibly stuck, and had been since she was 18 months old. She started having really significant experiences at the age of 18 months that lasted decades. And, you look at something like that and you're like, 65, okay, can I really help this person transform into something different, a different core of set beliefs? And what I was able to take her on through that journey was her to understand that the things she experienced as a young child were not because she wasn't worthy. It was because the other person who she was having these experiences with were not treating her with respect. And it wasn't about her. It was about them. And she can understand that intellectually, but it's rooted in her subconscious.
Yeah.
That's where your feelings and your core beliefs are. So if we're not getting under the hood and looking at it and getting curious with it, and then thanking the different parts that showed up to protect us in that moment, and then install a new set of beliefs, which is the integration piece.
Gotcha.
What she said to me at the very end was, because my program's about 8 weeks long, at the end, she said, "You've literally taken me from helpless to hopeful. I did not believe this was going to work, and it worked. And I feel different about myself now." That to me was like the best thing I've ever heard.
Wow.
Because if I can help her, it's possible to help anyone. Meaning, like, when you're helping somebody that's been rooted in this maladaptive thought process for 60 years, and you can actually give them a tool that makes them feel empowered and gives them agency to have better years going forward, it's huge. It's huge. It's life-changing for the person.
Yeah, absolutely. This particular modality and kind of what you do, it definitely seems like something that can help a lot of people that have that unresolved trauma. When you speak about developmental trauma, I know you said, sometimes it goes back to 18 months old, and I know a lot of people don't remember things that happen when they're 18 months, but their body does and their mind does in the subconscious. Can you speak a little bit more to like what type of developmental traumas people might face?
Sure. And by the way, I've had people, believe it or not, I had one client go all the way back to the womb.
Wow.
Which was like, for me as a coach and an RTT practitioner, I went like this. Tell me more. Like I was just like along for the ride. It was so amazing to watch. But so let's talk about developmental trauma. I don't know how much you talk about ACEs on your podcast, but for people that don't know what ACEs is adverse childhood experiences. And any experience that leaves someone feeling unsafe, unheard, insignificant, unimportant, unseen can possibly yield that person feeling undeserving of, unworthy of connection and not feeling enough. And so what I always say to people is there are lots of things that can happen that can result in trauma. And I have a little sign here and it says, trauma is never the event. Trauma is the way that an experience is interpreted in your system, right? Wow, so we have to take things like duration and frequency and intensity into consideration for how stuck somebody is. So I'm not saying you have one time where you felt unseen and you're traumatized for the rest of your life. But if you find yourself growing up in an environment that leaves you feeling either scared, confused, concerned, unsure, afraid, can be very traumatic, especially if during that time you start adopting core beliefs like, I'm not worthy of whatever it is we're seeking, or it's not available to me. I'm not enough for it, right? So what would be examples? We know straight off the bat, people think of trauma, they think of these big T traumas, acts of aggression, acts of violence, acts of abuse, right? I call them the 3 A's. That's the big T trauma. If you're thinking of weather patterns, these are the things everybody knows as a catastrophic storm, right? Gotcha. It's a typhoon, it's a hurricane, it's a hailstorm, it's a tornado. You see it, you know what it is. And I think in the pie chart of trauma, it's significant, but I think more times than not, what I really see coming through my office are people that are struggling with the little T traumas. And the little T traumas are these things that leave us feeling not enough. So what I always share with my clients is when we're born, we have a handful of things we need. We need to know that we're going to be fed. We're going to be kept hydrated, that we're going to be kept safe from the elements, right? Like we have structure and roof, that we're going to be kept clean. Yeah. But more importantly, we need to know that we belong. We need to know inherently we are connected to our origin of source, right? Our caregivers, our origin of family. We need to know we belong, not that we fit in, but we inherently belong here. And anything that threatens that over and over and over again can leave someone feeling insignificant enough that it can become traumatic. And so I think it's that piece, because people don't know that as trauma, right? But it causes these fears of showing up. We start to lose our authenticity because we start to shed layers of ourselves in order to fit in so we'll belong.
Right. Yeah.
And so when I'm working with people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even, more times than not, these people are not fully connected to their authentic self. They've shape-shifted enough throughout life that they've lost pieces along the way of who they truly are. And I'm just helping them on that journey go back and find those breadcrumbs and those pieces and reconnect. Does that make sense?
It does. And I love that. I love that going back to get something that you lost. Like we have a saying, Sankofa, going back to get it. And that just goes back to being reconnected to those pieces that we've kind of lost of ourselves, just with the transatlantic trade and all of that in our community. Yes. It's kind of like, wow, now, those pieces of this that are missing. So that just kind of is what came up in my spirit as you were talking about that. It's like, yeah, we lose those pieces, not just through that, but just through life. And as you were speaking more,
think about it in your community or in any community, as we lose those pieces. And when therapy or doing work, this kind of work wasn't mainstream, then you have people that are raising children, people who are raising children that are very hurt and very disconnected from themselves. Right. So they're not able to fully meet that connection need with the child. It's not the child's fault that they can't connect. And it's not the parents' fault that they can't connect. But they are disconnected because of the way that they've been parented and they've been parented and they've been parented based on all these traumas. So now we have this huge lineage of intergenerational trauma. And if I have somebody calling me saying, why does my mother hate me? And I'm like, sister girl, we need to talk because she doesn't hate you. She doesn't know how to love herself. She doesn't know how to love you. Let's talk about her parents. Let's talk about your grandparents. Let's talk about your great-grandparents. Where was that learned? What did she experience? It's not about you. Once they can accept it's not about them and they can see the bigger picture, they can gain more agency in breaking that cycle.
Yeah.
Right? But it's work.
Yeah.
And you have to be open to it. And the majority of people in a particular community are not going to give you a high five for doing that work either all the time.
Exactly. I've had to do a lot of inner child work. As you were speaking about intergenerational trauma, I have had to do a lot of work in terms of overcoming a lot of my childhood stuff related to that, particularly my mom not knowing how to be a mom because her mom was murdered when she was 16 years old. And so it just kind of translated into a whole lot of stuff. And my dad wasn't really accepted by his dad and his mom. We were both raised by my great grandmother. And so it's just kind of like all of that feeling like not having a place of belonging and not being accepted. And then that translating over into how you connect in relationships. It's just this cycle that impacts so much of your life. And so hearing about this type of thing, I'm over here like, I've done some inner child work, but maybe I need to go do some more in terms of that.
I think the difference is doing it at the subconscious level. I really do, because I've done it both ways.
Okay.
And it just roots differently because all of our feelings and our core beliefs are rooted in our subconscious. So you can say, oh, I get it. Consciously, it all makes sense. You just rolled it out. I mean, that makes total sense to me. But for yourself, here's what I know. For me, myself, I had a lot of trauma growing up. And I had done so much work. I'm 51 years old. I started going to therapy when I was 15 in 1986.
Wow.
Okay. So I had done the work consistently. I was the only person in my family of 6 people that ever saw a therapist to this day.
Wow.
Okay. I'm the cycle breaker. I've been the one doing the work. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's 2 of us now. But for all the work I had done at 40 years old, I had a gratitude practice that was unshakable. And yet I was still having daily panic attacks.
Wow.
And what I realized is that my mind was not connected to my body. And I had done the work and it was conscious level all across the board. And then I went and saw a clinical hypnotherapist. And I thought, I have nothing to lose. And I remember after 2 sessions with her, I'm like, you are not a clinical hypnotherapist, you're a spiritual healer. Because what she allowed me to do under hypnosis, the inner child work that I did under hypnosis trumped anything I had done for 30 years prior at the conscious level.
Wow.
And I was
crazy.
And it was for me. I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. And I remember it, and I still see that vision. And I think what's so beautiful is, there's a lot of rules to how the mind works. And one of the rules is the mind loves images. It loves pictures. And when I'm feeling stuck, I can still to this day, 11 years later, visualize the vision I had under hypnosis of myself sitting with my 13-year-old self in my 13-year-old bedroom, and the connection I made with her. And when I need to go back and make that connection, I can get myself to that place again. But it roots different. It's like getting to the basement of someone's house when there's a crack on the wall and you keep sanding it and spackling it and painting it, and you fix it. And it keeps coming back, and it keeps coming back longer and deeper and bigger until you realize it's never going to fix if we just fix the wall. We have to get to the basement and find out where the part of the basement's uneven or not level or not secure. And that's what we have to dig out. And that's where we need to pour in something new to create a stronger foundation. So when I work with somebody at the subconscious level, we extract the core beliefs that are no longer relevant, but we pour into the person the new beliefs that they've already expressed to me in earlier sessions that they want. And then when that journey is over, that 2-hour session, I record the last 15 minutes of the session, because what I'm doing in those last 15 minutes is speaking into existence what it is that they do want. And it's almost like a guided meditation, but it's using their language because we've created it together. And then I give that to them after the session with some like meditation music layered over it. I ask them to listen to it for 21 days. So now they're rewiring their thought process for a new suggestion, for new beliefs, new thoughts. And then when I continue to coach them with the idea that they're now retraining themselves when they're not with me, it has a longer lasting effect.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's really cool to kind of use that as a meditation tool. And then, it's kind of like really truly pouring into them. I kind of can see why you are the mindset flipper. Because that would definitely flip some things. Mindset. I think there used to be an app called Think Up. I think it still may be out there where you can record affirmations in your own voice and listen to them back. But I think that's
powerful.
Yeah, very powerful. Yeah. Okay. So I know you've been flipping mindsets for a little bit, and I know that is a part of your journey in terms of what you do. Can you speak a little bit more to that in terms of what that actually means, the mindset flipper?
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's not a name I gave myself. It was a name a whole bunch of other people gave me, and I was like, well, it kind of makes sense.
Gotcha.
But I would always say to people, let's flip that for a second. This is before I even had my coaching practice. I think people who get into what you and I do, you're a therapist, I'm a coach, we come to it from our own work, right? Nobody just decides one day they want to get into this. They've done something that's worked for them and they want to heal again. They want to heal back. They want to give back. And so before I even became a coach, I just was always someone that people were attracted to for advice and wisdom. And I have a problem, and can you help me? And I found myself constantly giving them a new lens through which to see the problem. And I would say, just flip your mindset for a second. And I just was saying it all the time. So then people started calling me the mindset flipper. And I was like, well, that kind of sticks.
Okay.
So, I try to get people to see the challenge they've had as a gift. And give it a different perspective through which to see life. So they don't see themselves as life is happening to them, but it's happening for them. That's the massive flip. Even the worst of the worst circumstance, and I've heard everything. I'm mindful when I say there's a gift in every challenge. I'm not saying that the experience is a gift. I'm saying the way that you can transform and who you can become from the lessons gained through the experience can be a gift.
Yeah, definitely get that. And definitely love that idea of being able, it's almost like the whole ideology of finding that silver lining, that lining, whatever it is, can lead you to the transformation that you need. So that's definitely a beautiful thing. So
yeah.
So I ask everyone that comes on this podcast one question. And I always ask, how do you connect personally with the idea of being self-aware and fucked up?
Oh my God. I mean, I think I just described it before. I was so self-aware in my 40s that the last 3 therapists I had were basically like, I don't know why you're here, because you're so self-aware. Like, I think it was intimidating to them. Like, what can I get you to become more aware of? Because I had the awareness consciously, but I kept going to them because I was so fucked up physically.
Gotcha.
Because I was still having these panic attacks. I was still having these massive bouts of anxiety. But I didn't know the language then. What I know now is my vagus nerve was so hijacked and my nervous system was so hijacked, not because of present day circumstances. Those were just triggers of things I had yet to resolve. And I had to resolve them at the subconscious level for me in order to get my mind and body to connect and regulate.
Yeah.
So I walked around self-aware for a really long time, but the fucked upness was I was so disconnected from myself. I couldn't control and tone my nervous system so I could live. I was so, it's debilitating when you have that level of anxiety and panic. I'm a smart person. I couldn't even, figure, I'd open my refrigerator and be like, I don't know how to pick which milk I want for my coffee. And I don't know how to make my coffee right now. Like, I was so offline because my nervous system was so jacked up. It was causing everything to just shut down. And it was a horrible place to be. And it was a horrible way to live. And at that time, 12 years ago, 11 years ago, I had a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. So I was like, I can't, my kids are 18 and 14 right now. Like, I wasn't good to anyone.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel good. So that was my experience with self-aware and fucked up.
Gotcha. Wow. I definitely appreciate you sharing that. I mean, the anxiety level, the nervous system, all of that stuff, being able to work it out at the subconscious level seems like the way to go. And like I said, I've done a lot of work, and now you have me over here very, very curious about going through hypnotherapist or some form of that. Because I'm really open at this age to just trying whatever can bring me the most peace and joy and throughout the rest of my life. So I truly appreciate you sharing your journey, and definitely want you to share as well how people can connect with you, listen to your podcast, or just see what you have going on.
Sure. So the easiest way to find out more about me is my website, which is flipyourmindset.com. And there you can access everything. You can contact me under freebies. You can access my podcast, which is on all podcast platforms. It's called Flip That Shit. And also I'm very active on Instagram. So if people want to follow me on Instagram, I use it as an educational platform so people can learn more about trauma and how to resolve it. And I just use my name. So it's my first name and last name. It's Stacey Uhrig with an E. It's STACEYUHRIG.
All right. Well, all of your information will definitely be in the description of this episode. Stacey, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I've definitely learned a lot. And now I'm going to be over here Googling. Where are you located at?
I'm in New Jersey, but I work with people all over the world. So I offer all my sessions via Zoom for people that can't or, make it to my New Jersey office, and even my New Jersey clients. Sometimes I work on with Zoom. So
the hypnosis piece on Zoom.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I would be so nervous, but yeah, gotcha.
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. I created a program that takes 8 weeks to go through, and it's 5 sessions. And we don't do hypnosis until the 3rd session.
Gotcha.
So, everybody that wants to work with me, if they're curious, they get a free session with me first. It's called a discovery call, but my discovery call is a full 75 minutes. I don't joke around. Because if someone's coming to me with trauma they really want to resolve, they should feel comfortable with me first. And that 75 minutes will give them a good understanding if they are or if they're not. If they sign on with me, we're going to do 2 75-minute sessions before we ever even get to that journey. So they've spent up to that point, like almost 4.5 hours with me. So there's a comfort level, especially if the person's far away, they feel comfortable working with me via Zoom. I was trained during the pandemic on this. So all my training was done online. Okay. So I learned how to do it over Zoom. It was actually foreign and fun and unique for me to do a hypnotherapy session in person for the first time. Because I had done it all over Zoom. So I'm very well trained on how to do it, and it's very possible to do.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'll definitely be reaching out at some point. It may not be right now because I got a lot going on, but I definitely am intrigued and interested. So you guys, again, Stacey, thank you for your time and everything. You guys, please make sure that you follow Stacey. I will make sure all her information is in the description and show notes of this episode. Also, be sure to follow me, Tree the LPC, on all social media platforms under the handle Tree the LPC. Until next time, be safe, be well, and make sure that you take care of your mental health.